Hello, I'm Paulo Bogas. I'm starting the presentation, a quasi-experimental response to greater diversification of activities, greater integration of student profiles. Assumption that in the higher education, students will evolve to a more deeper approaches while they are learning. Nevertheless, there are some authors that state that there is no clear theoretical basis for this assumption and there is no empirical evidence. That's why I've done a study on 3 different profiles for each different scores, and so I will come back to these numbers in order to conclude that in fact we may discuss that assumption. So the objectives of the pedagogical intervention was to describe and analyze the results, to identify the factors that help to understand the reason why some students, after the pedagogical intervention, develop an approach to deep learning and other surface, meaning by deep learning a deep interest on the topics that are being studied because they realize that they will need it in the future career, while other students are more focused on the grades and so the results, the immediate results. Identify the strategy that best suits each student. And so the design was an explanatory, sequential, quasi-experimental design with mixed methodology. Under the course, the marketing plan in the Bachelor Marketing program in the Business School of Polytechnic Institute of Setúbal in Portugal. And the design of the pedagogical intervention was done along this continuum from the left with lectures during which we solved some problems. Students had as well a simulation context in the middle of this continuum. So in the online program, they took decisions for a company, deciding which kind of products and price and so on, so typical marketing decisions. And then they had also in the right corner of the continuum challenges that brands face in that moment. So we may say that the characteristics of this pedagogical intervention were 3. The first one, it was a realistic, bringing live cases with ambiguity and complexity that the simulated practice and the real cases brought to the. David Kolb, through the learning experience theory, states that learning through real experience is fundamental for the learning occur. But experience alone does not produce learning. And so problem-solving skills and reflexive thinking are closely associated. Students were organized in a team-based learning model. Discussing some results. I will start with the live challenges. For some students, it brought some meaning to the material that they were studying. I realized that I need to understand and to know how to apply this concept and these techniques because there are some challenges that require that knowledge. The contact with an aspirational or future professional context for some students as well. They realize what it is, what it will be to work in the context of marketing, what kind of decisions they may be taking. And then they realize that they may have impact on the world through the decisions. And so identifying the problems of the brands they will be dealing with, they may propose some solutions, and that solutions may bring some impact on the daily life of many of us. The simulated practice brought some positive and negative aspects to be discussed. The first one is the highly motivational source for some students, as the students really appreciate to analyze data, to identify problems, to propose solutions, to implement the solutions, and then to measure the results, and from that to start the process again. And for some, that's really important. It brought an awareness of oneself, meaning that students refer that this is the context in which I would like to work, as to identify problems, propose solutions, and implement. But for some students, it was a real additional effort, as they need to understand how the platform works, how can I deal with so many information to take a decision and to find a problem, and for them, for that kind of students, it is a stress. So analyze the results, split it by the 3 different groups that I found in the study. The first one is the group that evolved to surface approach. So comparing the score of the scale in the beginning and at the end of the intervention, they decreased the score of the deep approach. The explanation for this evolution, it's because the students are much more motivated for immediate results. So they want something in the class that they may control and to understand how can I get the grade that I want to achieve. Otherwise, this is too much for me. I don't understand how to do, and I don't like this kind of context. These students are really sensitive to the role of the educators and peers, and so they check if the teaching style of the teacher is aligned with the learning style of them. If it is, there is no problem. Otherwise, they dismiss the class in a way. And those students prefer more individual work, as they can control the quality, the effort that they will put in the challenges that the teacher introduces in the class, and so they control all the process in order to get the result or just to be approved in the course. So for future interventions, it is recommended to balance individual and group tasks in order to challenge this kind of students, but they can find as well their preference of learning through individual work. And to clear define standards for the tasks in order to try to push those students to a bit more in order to get more effort and involvement in the course. The second, maintain the deeper approach score. So this group is defined by their strategy, and their strategy is through group work. So for them to learn is through work in groups. So I may discuss the topics, the ideas, and so to find the best solution in dialogue with the other colleagues. Even though for them there are some challenges, trying to achieve the consensus could be a challenge. It could be more difficult as there are many students with different opinions, but because as well they may find different work methods, and so they need to negotiate and articulate in order to find a consensus in that way as well. So for this kind of students, it is important to define the group roles, to rotate along the semester, along the students, in order to them to train different positions in the group, and so they will find the right place to them to be in that group. Finally, the third group increased the score in deep approach, and this group is the group with more sensitivity to the experiential interventions. For them, to learn is this context of this kind of intervention. It's not from a traditional class with a teacher speaking about the concepts and then perhaps some exercises. They need direct contexts with the real-life challenges of the brands in order to imagine where I will be in the future. And so learning is by doing, and by doing I can learn. The motivation for them comes from the bridge between theory and practice, so that makes sense that I'm learning this because I am applying that. Organization of the study really aligned with the objectives of the curricular units. So they ask for the objectives if they are not really explained by the teacher, and they organize their work from that objectives. For the students, it is suggests to include more moments of reflection, either in groups or individually, either through diaries, reflection pairs, or any other method, in order to really consolidate the process of learning by doing and doing, reflecting about the practice, and then starting again. And so in conclusion, we may say that in the same pedagogical space, the presence of different strategies and motivations may be found. It requires a great diversity of activities, leading to more integration of different profiles, more opportunities for personal development, as we found for the three different profiles.